What does it mean to live a life truly rich, not in the fleeting shimmer of gold or the hollow applause of crowds, but in the quiet depths of spirit, peace, and purpose? For a woman, this richness is not forged by what she clutches in her hands or what others whisper about her. It is shaped by the values she chooses to cradle within her soul. Welcome to Ancient Wisdom, a sanctuary where we sift through the sands of time to uncover truths that endure, truths that guide us toward lives of meaning and serenity. Today, we embark on a journey through 6 virtues seemingly small, yet immeasurably profound, that a woman can nurture to transform her existence into something radiant and enduring. These are not modern concoctions born of fleeting trends, but echoes from the ancients, a philosophical compass to navigate the storms of our chaotic age. Imagine a woman as a flower, blooming not by accident but by design, her fragrance wafting through the air regardless of where she finds herself rooted. Her life is not measured by the weight of her possessions or the volume of praise she garners. It is defined by the silent strength of what she preserves. In a world that tugs us relentlessly toward comparison, competition, and ceaseless striving, these 6 principles stand as a gentle rebellion, a call to flourish, not merely to endure. Drawing from the Stoic resilience of Marcus Aurelius, who urged us to master the realm within, and the timeless mindfulness of Buddhist sages, this exploration unveils how the preservation of simple acts can yield a harvest of extraordinary power. Whether you seek a haven of peace amidst life's tempests or a deeper connection to the potential that lies dormant within you, these virtues steeped in the love of wisdom offer a path forward. Join us as we delve into this tapestry of thought, woven to inspire, to uplift, and to awaken the eternal strength that resides in every woman's heart. A woman's life is akin to a river. Its beauty and power emerge not from its breadth or its noise, but from the steady, deliberate course it carves through the earth. The richness of her existence lies not in grand pronouncements or ostentatious displays, but in the subtle, persistent preservation of her innermost essence. These 6 virtues, ceasing complaints, transforming laziness, releasing envy, safeguarding family, guarding wealth discreetly, and mastering emotions, are not rigid commandments but lenses through which to behold the world. They resonate with the Stoic imperative to govern what lies within our grasp, the existentialist hunger for authentic meaning, and the Buddhist reverence for presence and clarity. Let us unfold each one, threading together philosophy, psychology, and the raw texture of human experience, to reveal how these ancient practices remain not only relevant but vital in the modern age. 1. Cease complaining, embrace the good. Life is a landscape of uneven contours, its hills and valleys dotted with moments of joy and shadowed by stretches of struggle. No soul escapes the sting of unfairness, the weight of disappointment, or the ache of unmet desires. Yet, within this imperfect tapestry lies a choice as old as thought itself, to lament the thorns or to seek the roses hidden among them. Complaining is a reflex as natural as breath, an outpouring of frustration, when the world refuses to bend to our will. But it is also a thief, a silent pilferer of light. Each grievance we voice is a pebble cast into a well, deepening the darkness that surrounds us, pulling us further from the warmth of hope and the clarity of purpose. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, etched this truth into the annals of Stoicism: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. To cease complaining is not to deny the reality of pain or the legitimacy of sorrow. It is to wrest control from the chaos without and anchor it firmly within. Words are not mere sounds, they are vessels of energy, carriers of an unseen force that shapes both the speaker and the listener. When we complain, we spill forth a tide of negativity that erodes the spirit, much like water wearing away stone over centuries. It does not mend the broken, nor does it right the wrong. It merely amplifies the burden, draping our souls in a shroud of heaviness. Picture a woman standing at the edge of hardship. Perhaps her coffers are empty, her dreams deferred, or her trust betrayed. She could raise her voice to the heavens, decrying the injustice, her cries swallowed by an indifferent wind. Each word of lament drains her vitality, distancing those who might otherwise stand beside her. And yet, there are women who, facing the same gales of misfortune, choose a different path. They do not rail against the tempest, they turn inward, seeking the lessons it bears. This is not a surrender masked as patience, it is a strength forged in silence, a stoic refusal to let the outer world dictate the inner one. Consider the story of a young woman who once faltered in her craft. A job lost, a vision thwarted, she turned to those around her, spilling tales of unfairness and woe. At first, her friends gathered close, their words a soft bandage for her wounds. But as her complaints grew, a chorus looped without end, their patience thinned. One by one, they drifted away, leaving her alone with her echoes. The weight of isolation pressed upon her until, one quiet morning, she paused. Instead of unfurling her grievances, she took up a pen and inscribed 3 things she held dear: the taste of a simple meal, the fleeting curve of a stranger's smile, the golden spill of sunlight through her window. At first, the task felt forced, her mind drifting to what was absent rather than what remained. But day by day, the practice took root. She ceased to complain not because the world had righted itself, but because she chose to cultivate what she could command, her perspective, her effort, her love for the life still hers to shape. Soon, those who had withdrawn returned, drawn not to her burdens but to the light she began to radiate. This is the philosophical hinge upon which this virtue turns, to shift the question from why has this befallen me, to what can this teach me. Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence invites us to imagine each moment repeating infinity. Would we curse it endlessly, or find a way to bless it? And as ecology echoes this wisdom, rumination breeds despair, while gratitude fosters resilience. To stop complaining is to erect a shield against the arrows of despondency, to see life's trials not as tyrants, but as tutors in disguise. A woman who masters this art does not merely endure, she shines. Her presence becomes a balm, her life a living testament to the richness that blooms from a shifted gaze. She is not untouched by sorrow, but she refuses to let it define her. In her silence lies a power that echoes through the ages, a whisper of wisdom that says, "The world may not bend, but I can stand tall within it." This cessation is not a suppression of feeling, it is a redirection of energy. It is the choice to meet adversity with dignity rather than despair, to wield words as tools of uplift rather than weapons of woe. Imagine waking each day with a breath of thanks rather than a sigh of grievance. The Stoics would approve, for they saw the mind as a citadel, impregnable if we so choose. A woman who embraces this virtue does not pretend perfection. She acknowledges the cracks and chooses to mend them with grace. She becomes a beacon, not because her path is free of stones, but because she walks it with eyes lifted toward the horizon. Her richness is not in what she avoids, but in what she builds, a life woven with threads of gratitude, resilience, and quiet triumph. To transform laziness into motivation. Laziness is a whisper woven into the fabric of our being, a soft siren song that bids us linger in the cradle of comfort. It greets us in the grey light of dawn, when the bed feels a fortress against the clamour of the day, when the world beyond seems too vast, too demanding to face. We all hear its call those mornings when the will falters, when the mind pleads for just one more hour of stillness. Yet, this stillness is a mirage. Like a drizzle that gathers into a flood, laziness seeps into the corners of our lives, eroding the dreams we once held high, dimming the spark of what might have been. Epictetus, the Stoic sage, warned us, no great thing is created suddenly. A woman who surrenders to this inertia risks a life adrift, her days slipping through her fingers like sand, leaving behind only the dust of regret. But laziness is not an unyielding captor, it can be a teacher, a prod to awaken what slumbers within. It is not the absence of desire but the absence of motion that binds us. To break free, we need only take a step, however small. Imagine a woman in a quiet village, once tethered to the chains of idleness. Her hours melted into a blur of screens and sighs, her spirit dulled by the refrain, "I'm not as gifted as others." What's the use? Time passed her by, not with fanfare but with a whisper, until a stark truth pierced her haze. Her child's schooling hung in the balance, the cost unmet by her stagnant hand. Shame flickered, then flared. Standing before a mirror, she did not curse fate, she questioned her own stillness. "What have I done with this life?" she murmured, and in that moment, resolve was born. Her beginning was humble, rising an hour earlier each day. She turned to the kitchen, learning to knead dough and coax warmth from an oven. Her first loaves were modest, shared with neighbors not for profit but for connection. Their quiet praise lit a spark within her, a flicker of possibility. Soon, a small stall took shape before her home, each sale a testament to her awakening. Mai did not become a titan of industry, she became a woman alive. Her story is a Stoic parable. Progress is not a leap but a series of steps, each one a brick laid upon the foundation of a life reclaimed. Laziness traps us in a cycle. Inaction breeds stagnation. Stagnation saps the will to rise. To escape, we must move, even if the motion feels frail at first. Psychology affirms this truth. Action generates momentum, while inertia feeds lethargy. 15 minutes of tidying a corner, stretching a weary limb, or tracing the lines of a book can ignite a fire where once there was only ash. A woman need not be extraordinary to begin, she must simply begin to become extraordinary. This virtue is a bridge, spanning the chasm between apathy and purpose. It echoes Epicurus's pursuit of joy through effort rather than indulgence, and Kant's call to honor the duty we owe ourselves. The woman who transforms laziness into motivation does not chase perfection, she pursues persistence. She crafts a life not of sudden glory but of steady meaning, her richness found in the dignity of her labor. Consider the rhythm of such a life, a morning claimed not by slumber but by creation, a day shaped not by drift but by intent. The Stoics saw time as a gift, each hour a coin to spend wisely or squander. Mai's journey mirrors countless others, women who, stirred by necessity or longing, chose to step beyond the shadows of idleness. They did not seek to outrun the swift or outshine the brilliant, they sought only to outpace their former selves. This is the philosophical core of this virtue. Richness lies not in the grandeur of the goal, but in the courage of the start. A woman who embraces it becomes a quiet force, her every effort a ripple that touches those around her. She does not merely exist, she builds, and in building, she finds a wealth no idleness can erode. This transformation is not a solitary act, it is a habit, a discipline woven into the fabric of days. It begins with the smallest gesture, rising when the body resists, choosing a task when the mind demurs. Over time, these choices harden into a scaffold, lifting her from the mire of what was to the heights of what could be. She learns that motivation is not a gift bestowed but a flame kindled, and in tending it, she discovers a strength she did not know she possessed. Her life becomes a testament to the power of motion, a living proof that even the laziest heart can beat with purpose when stirred to rise. 3. From envy to serenity. Envy is a shadow that falls across the soul when we glimpse another's light, a pang of want, a twist of unease when success blooms beyond our reach. It is as human as breath, a reflex born of our social nature, our eyes forever scanning the horizon of others' lives. Yet, while admiration can lift us toward the sun, envy chains us to the earth, a smoldering ember that consumes peace and blinds us to our own radiance. The Stoics taught that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Envy is this imagined wound given flesh. A woman caught in its grasp turns her gaze outward, her own gifts obscured by the shimmer of what others hold, her life a mirror distorted by relentless comparison. Picture, though, a woman cradled by a loving family, yet restless in her core. Friends, tales of opulence, journeys to distant lands, possessions that gleam stirred a quiet resentment within her. Why not me? She wondered, her happiness dimming beneath the weight of others' triumphs. She withdrew, her envy a wall between her and those she once held dear, until a chance encounter shifted her course. A friend, unburdened by wealth yet rich in contentment, met her question, "How do you stay so joyful?" With a simple truth, "I envy too, but I turn it into fuel. If they can, why not me?" Thu lingered on these words, a seed planted in barren soil. She began to look not at what others had, but at what she held: a child's laughter, a roof that sheltered, a life that, though modest, was hers. Envy faded, and in its place grew a serenity she had not known. This is philosophical alchemy at its finest. Envy born of yearning can be distilled into aspiration. Nietzsche's "Beyond Good and Evil" bids us carve our own path, not trace another's steps. Psychologically, envy is a signal, a whisper of desire that, when harnessed, becomes a compass rather than a cage. The woman who releases it does not snuff out ambition, she refines it, asking not why them, but what do I truly seek. Serenity follows, not as a passive surrender, but as a clarity that frees her from the shackles of comparison. She walks lightly, unburdened by measures not her own, her gratitude a shield against the darts of discontent. Such a woman does not deny the pang of envy, she masters it. She sends a silent blessing to those who prosper, her heart untwisted by their gain. This echoes Buddhist mindfulness, a presence rooted in the now, and Stoic detachment from what lies beyond our grasp. Her richness is an inner calm, a wealth no thief can pilfer, no rival can diminish. She understands that life is not a race to outstrip others, but a journey to uncover her own depths. Envy, left unchecked, is a fire that jars the soul. Turned inward, it becomes a light that guides. Imagine her days. Instead of scrolling through glimpses of others' lives, she tends her own garden, literal or figurative, nurturing what grows within her reach. She does not crave the glittering baubles of another's world. She polishes her own treasures, however humble they may seem. This is the Stoic art of contentment, the existentialist embrace of authenticity. Her serenity is not a gift bestowed by circumstance, it is a choice, a discipline, a triumph of will over want. She becomes a quiet marvel, her peace a magnet that draws others not to her possessions, but to her presence. In releasing envy, she finds a wealth that endures, a richness that rests not on having more, but on being enough. For preserve family, nurture happiness. Family is both the root from which a woman draws her strength and the refuge to which she returns when the world grows cold. It is the soil that nourishes her spirit, the harbor that shelters her through storms. Yet its harmony is not a birthright, it is a garden that demands tending, a flame that flickers without care. To preserve it is to shield its sanctity, to weave a tapestry of love and trust that withstands the gales of time. A woman who neglects this task risks losing her anchor, watching happiness slip through her fingers like water through a cracked vessel, irretrievable once lost. How learned this lesson through the sting of missteps. Her family was her pride, a husband steadfast, children bright, yet she bared its flaws to all who would listen. A quarrel with her spouse, a tension with her kin, she spilled these tales to colleagues and acquaintances, seeking solace in their nods. At first, they offered sympathy, a chorus of understanding. But words, like seeds born on the wind, scattered beyond her control. Gossip took root, twisting her confidences into tales that reached her husband's ears, deepening the fractures she had hoped to mend. Silence became her salvation. She learned to guard her family's story, sharing only with those worthy of trust, and peace crept back into her home, her discretion a balm that healed what words had torn. Marcus Aurelius might have smiled. What need is there to discuss what is not yours to mend? This virtue is a dance of restraint and action, keeping private what is sacred, building rather than breaking what is shared. A woman who preserves family does not cloak its imperfections in denial. She tends them quietly, seeking solutions over scapegoats. She sees her partner's virtues before his faults, her forgiveness a thread that binds rather than severs. Psychology underscores this truth. Mutual respect fortifies bonds, while exposure erodes them. Her richness lies in a home unshaken by tempests, a legacy of love that outlasts lament. Consider the weight of this choice, to shield rather than expose, to nurture rather than neglect. A family is not a stage for airing grievances, it is a sanctuary for cultivating joy. The woman who masters this art understands that every harsh word withheld, every secret kept, is a brick laid in the foundation of trust. She does not seek perfection. A family without flaws is a myth, but harmony, a balance forged through patience and care. Her days become a rhythm of small acts, a listening ear, a shared meal, a gentle touch that says you are enough. In this, she embodies the Stoic call to control what we can, and the Buddhist reverence for the present moment. Her richness is not in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of connection. She knows that family is not a burden to bear, but a gift to cherish, a wellspring of strength that flows both ways. When she preserves it, she preserves herself, her peace, her purpose, her place in the world. She becomes a keeper of the flame, her life a testament to the power of love tended well. 5. Guard wealth, avoid ostentation. Wealth is a tool, not a trophy. To flaunt it is to court peril, envy's sharp gaze, theft's swift hand, or the shallow praise of those who love not the woman but her glitter. A woman who guards it discreetly wields it with wisdom, her value rooted not in what she displays but in what she holds within. The ancients understood this. Great wealth is great secrecy, a maxim drowned by the clamor of a world obsessed with spectacle. To preserve wealth is to preserve dignity, a quiet richness that needs no fanfare to endure. Lynn, a merchant of modest triumph, once reveled in the spotlight of her gains. Lavish feasts, journeys abroad, treasures of silk and gold, she cast these before the digital crowd, basking in their awe. The admiration was sweet, a fleeting nectar, until shadows crept in. A thief, lured by her gleam, stripped her bare in a single night. Shaken, she rebuilt not with fanfare, but with restraint. Han, by contrast, lived simply in a village, her means modest yet sufficient. She wore no finery, boasted no excess, yet channeled her wealth into her children's learning, her family's quiet growth. When they rose, steady and sure, her richness shone not in what she showed, but in what she sowed. This is not miserline zest but mastery. Kant's ethics exalt intention over appearance. Epicurus sought joy in the essential, not the extravagant. A woman who guards wealth uses it for meaning, health, education, bonds that endure, not for validation from eyes that flicker and fade. Her life, unburdened by the need to prove, glows with a subtle richness, a stoic proof that true abundance whispers rather than shouts. She does not hoard for greed's sake, she stewards for life's sake, her choice is a shield against the chaos of want. Imagine her days, a coin saved not for show but for substance, a purchase weighed not by envy but by need. She walks past the lure of ostentation, her head high, her heart light. This is the philosophical pulse of this virtue. Wealth is a servant, not a master. She knows that to flaunt is to invite loss not just of goods, but of peace. Her richness lies in the freedom of discretion, the calm of a life unyoked from others' measures. She becomes a quiet sage, her wealth a means to an end, not an end in itself. 6. Master emotions, sustain grace. Emotions are a river coursing through us, gentle when guided, wild when let loose. To master them is to preserve the self, a woman's grace her truest crown. They are neither foe nor friend, but a force to be shaped, a current to be steered. I Ching once let hers spill freely, joy in loud bursts, sorrow in unchecked tears, her volatility a tide that wore down those around her. A friend's blunt truth, not everyone can carry your storms, cut deep, yet woke her. She turned inward, penning her tempests, listening before speaking, steadying her flow. Her calm became her strength, her presence a gift reborn. Stoicism bids us rule our passions, not be ruled by them. Emotional intelligence, its modern kin, affirms this. Control breeds resilience, chaos breeds ruin. A woman who masters emotions does not bury them, she channels them. Joy she shares with care, sorrow she holds close until it softens. Her richness is a tranquil depth, a philosophical dance of restraint and release that makes her a light in any shadow. She knows that emotions, unchecked, are a flood that drowns. Tamed, they are a stream that nourishes. Her days are a practice, a breath before a retort, a pause before a tear. She does not deny feelings, he honors it with dignity. This is the art of grace, a virtue that echoes through time, from the Stoic halls of Rome to the mindful temples of the East. Her life becomes a canvas of balance, her every stroke deliberate, her richness a quiet power that needs no proclamation. These 6 virtues, small in scope, vast in reach, form a philosophy of richness for women, a wisdom as ancient as the stars, yet urgent for our fractured now. Ancient wisdom beckons you to ponder. What do you hold fast that shapes your days? To cease complaints, to stir laziness into purpose, to trade envy for peace, to guard family and wealth, to master emotions. These are not shackles but wings. They craft a life not of transient shine but of enduring glow, a tribute to Marcus Aurelius's Stoic resolve and the timeless grace of sages past. Share your reflections below, spread this light, and subscribe for more journeys into living wisely. Next, join Emma and Oliver as they weave these threads into a living dialogue. Your path to richness begins with the step you take today.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
It's great to be back.
Today we are diving into 6 timeless virtues that can really help enrich your life.
Yeah, and help make life more meaningful.
Exactly. And we're looking at this article, 6 timeless virtues women can preserve to enrich their lives, as kind of our jumping off point.
And I think what's so interesting about this article is that it's not just for women.
Right.
These are really universal, timeless virtues that I think can apply no matter who you are.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're going to find as we unpack these.
Yeah.
So the first one is cease complaining, embrace the good. Now, I know we all complain sometimes. That's part of being human, right?
Of course.
But what is it about complaining that maybe we should be aware of?
Well, I think what the article does really well is it brings in this idea of Stoicism.
Okay.
And the Stoics, back in ancient Greece and Rome, they really believed that you can't control external events.
Right.
But you can control your reaction to them.
It's that whole idea of like focusing on what you can control.
Exactly. And so when you complain, what you're doing is you're actually wiring your brain for negativity.
Oh.
And you're amplifying those negative feelings.
So it's like dwelling on the problem almost makes the problem bigger.
Exactly. It kind of snowballs.
Yeah.
And you just get stuck in this cycle of negativity.
So instead of getting stuck there, like how can we shift gears?
Well, the article actually tells a really compelling story about a woman who lost her job.
Okay.
And she was, understandably upset about it.
Right.
And she kind of isolated herself and was just constantly complaining.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was she started keeping a gratitude journal.
Wow.
And that became her turning point.
Interesting.
Because by writing down 3 things she was grateful for every day,
okay,
she was actually training her brain to focus on the positive.
So it's like shifting your perspective from why is this happening to me?
Exactly.
To what can I learn from this? Or what's good in my life?
Yeah. And I think what's important to note here is that it's not about denying negative feelings.
Right.
It's not about, pretending that everything's okay when it's not.
Toxic positivity.
Exactly. Yeah. It's okay to feel those negative emotions, but it's about redirecting your energy towards something more positive.
Yeah.
And gratitude is a really powerful tool for doing that.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so the second virtue is all about transforming laziness into motivation.
Yeah.
And can we all agree that sometimes
Oh, yeah.
that couch is just calling our name right?
Absolutely.
Like sometimes it's really hard to get motivated.
It is, and the article highlights this great Stoic principle, which is no great thing is created suddenly.
Ooh, I like that.
You know, the Stoics really understood that
Yeah.
big achievements, they come from taking consistent small steps.
It's breaking down that big goal into smaller steps.
Yeah, exactly. And so instead of getting overwhelmed by this huge task in front of you,
Right.
you break it down into these smaller, more manageable chunks. And that's where setting micro goals
Right.
and using techniques like time boxing can be really helpful.
It's true.
So instead of saying, I'm going to write a novel, you say, I'm going to write for 15 minutes every day.
I love that.
The article shares the story of May,
Okay.
who is this woman who was feeling really stuck and unmotivated,
Yeah.
and her child's education was at stake.
Oh.
And that really forced her into action.
So what does she do?
Well, she started small.
Okay.
She started baking bread and selling it.
Oh,
You know, it wasn't this grand plan or anything, but it got her moving,
Right.
and that initial action created momentum.
So it's almost like tricking your brain into taking action.
Exactly.
Because instead of saying, I'm going to write a whole book, you're like, I'm just going to sit down for 15 minutes.
Yes.
It makes it seem less daunting.
And once you break that initial resistance,
Right.
you're much more likely to keep going.
I love that. Okay, so the third virtue is all about moving from envy to serenity.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And I feel like envy is just one of those things that's so deeply ingrained in us.
It is. It's almost like a primal instinct.
Right.
You know, we're constantly comparing ourselves to others
Yeah.
and feeling like we're not enough.
So how do we move past that?
Well, the article suggests that we can actually transform this destructive emotion into something positive.
Right.
And it reminds us of Nietzsche's philosophy,
Okay.
which is to carve your own path.
Okay, I like that.
You know, it's about recognizing that someone else's success doesn't diminish your own.
Right.
We each have our unique journey and our own definition of success.
So instead of letting envy consume us, it's like we can use it as fuel
Exactly.
to figure out what we really value in life.
It's like envy is a signal.
Okay.
It's pointing us toward what we secretly yearn for.
Oh, that's good.
The article shares the story of Thu,
Okay.
who was a woman who was just consumed by envy.
Yeah.
And until a friend gave her some really good advice.
What was...
Well, the friend basically told her, you know, you need to start appreciating your own blessings and
Yeah.
use other people's achievements as inspiration rather than something to feel bad about.
I love that.
So thus started shifting her focus
Yeah.
from what she lacked to what she already had.
It's that whole comparison is the thief of joy thing.
Exactly.
Instead of focusing on what others have, focus on what brings you joy.
And what brings you purpose.
Right? And what's right for your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we all have different paths.
Absolutely. And comparing yourself to someone else
Right.
is just a recipe for unhappiness.
Okay, so we've talked about ceasing, complaining, embracing the good, transforming laziness into motivation, and moving from envy to serenity.
It's been a good start
I think so too.
to our journey.
Yeah, I'm excited to unpack the other three virtues.
Me too. They're juicy.
I know, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
After the break. So we've covered 3 of our 6 virtues
3 down, 3 to go.
so far.
And I'm really curious about how to actually put these virtues into practice.
Oh, yeah, that's a great question.
Because it's one thing to talk about them,
Right.
but how do we actually live them out in our daily lives?
So true. And the article actually gives some really helpful techniques for doing just that.
Okay, let's dive in.
So for instance, remember the first virtue.
Cease complaining,
Oh.
embrace the good.
Exactly. It's easy to talk about gratitude,
Right.
but how do we make it a habit?
Yeah, it's more than just saying thank you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one really practical technique the article suggests is keeping a gratitude journal.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yeah, it's super simple.
Okay.
You just spend a few minutes each day
Okay.
writing down 3 things that you're grateful for.
So it can be anything.
It can be anything. You know,
Yeah.
a sunny day, a good cup of coffee.
Good night's sleep.
Exactly. The point is to train your brain to focus on the positive.
So it's like building that mental
Oh,
muscle.
yes, exactly. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets.
I love that.
And speaking of mental exercises, the article also talks about reframing negative thoughts.
Ooh, reframe.
So let's say you hit a setback.
Okay.
Instead of dwelling on it, you know, beating yourself up,
Yeah.
ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
Okay.
It's about finding the opportunity within the challenge.
That's good. So it's like, we talked about that Stoic idea of controlling your reactions.
Yes.
That's like taking that and making it into a practical tool.
Exactly. And that ties in perfectly with our second, virtue transforming laziness into motivation.
Okay. How's that?
Well, we talked about the power of small steps.
Yeah, breaking things down.
But sometimes even starting those small steps feels impossible.
Oh, I so agree.
Right. Sometimes even small tasks can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's where setting micro goals and using time boxing techniques can be super effective.
So true.
The article uses the example of May, who was that woman who overcame inertia by taking small steps and gradually building momentum.
Yeah, she started with the bread, right?
Exactly. And what's so interesting is that her initial action wasn't even directly related to her ultimate goal.
Right. Baking bread.
Yeah. But it got her moving.
It got the ball rolling.
And that's the key.
So it's almost like tricking your brain into taking action.
Kind of, yeah. Instead of saying, I'm going to write a whole book, you say, I'm going to write for 15 minutes.
It feels so much less daunting.
Right, exactly. And once you break that initial resistance,
Right.
you're much more likely to keep going.
Okay, so true. And another thing that the article talks about that I thought was really interesting is the idea of accountability.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like sharing your goals with someone.
Yeah, having a cheerleader in your corner.
Exactly, someone who can support you and, kind of gently nudge you if you start to slip back into old habits.
Definitely having that support system can make a huge difference.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now let's talk about envy.
Oh boy, the green-eyed monster.
Right, that can really sabotage our happiness.
It can, for sure.
So the article suggests that we can transform envy into serenity.
It sounds aspirational.
It does. But how do we actually do that?
Well, I think the first step is recognizing when envy is creeping in.
Okay, and then understanding what it's telling us.
So it's like, what is it about that person's success
Yeah.
or possessions or whatever that I find so appealing?
It's like envy is a compass.
Yeah.
It's pointing us toward what we truly value.
So it's like instead of feeling resentful of that person,
Yeah.
it's like using those feelings to identify what you desire.
Exactly. It's about reframing envy as a source of self-discovery.
Okay,
And once you've identified those values, the next step is to focus on your own path.
right.
The article emphasizes that someone else's success doesn't diminish your own.
It doesn't mean that you're not successful.
Exactly. We each have our own unique journey.
And celebrating other people's successes can actually be empowering.
Absolutely. It shows us what's possible.
Yeah.
It inspires us to reach for our own dreams.
I love that. Okay, let's move on to the fourth. Virtue, preserve family, nurture happiness.
Okay, so important.
So we've talked about discretion,
Yes.
safeguarding family bonds. But in today's world, how do we actively strengthen those relationships?
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in our own lives
Yeah.
and, neglect those who are closest to us.
So how do we prioritize our family?
Well, the article really stresses the importance of quality time,
Okay.
whether that's, having a weekly family dinner
Right.
or just going for a walk in the park together.
Yeah.
It's about creating those shared experiences that deepen connection.
So it's like making that conscious effort to invest in those relationships.
Yes, exactly.
Just like you would invest in your career or your finances.
And remember, those investments don't have to be grand or expensive.
Right.
Small gestures like leaving a thoughtful note
Yeah.
or offering a helping hand, those can go a long way.
It's the thought that counts, right?
Absolutely. And another really important point the article highlights is active listening.
Active listening.
Truly being present when a family member is sharing something important.
Wow, that's so hard sometimes.
It is. It's so easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
But active listening is about more than just hearing the words.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the emotions behind them.
So put down your phone,
Yes.
make eye contact, and truly listen with empathy.
That's the key.
Okay, so let's talk about the fifth virtue.
Guard wealth. Avoid ostentation.
Yeah, this one can be tricky,
Oh, it's a tough one.
especially in our consumer-driven society.
Yes, where we're constantly being told that we need more stuff to be happy.
Exactly.
But the article offers a really interesting perspective on this.
Okay, I'm curious.
It encourages us to focus on financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
Yeah, understanding how money works,
Okay,
budgeting wisely,
all right.
and investing for the future.
So it's about taking control of your finances
Exactly.
instead of letting them control you.
And remember, wealth isn't limited to money.
Oh, that's true.
It also encompasses your time,
Right.
your energy.
Our resources.
Exactly. And the article reminds us to be mindful of how we spend these valuable assets.
So it's like, are we investing them in things that truly matter?
Yes. Are you aligning your spending with your values?
So it's like recognizing that experiences
Yeah.
and
And
relationships
personal growth.
often bring more lasting happiness
Yes.
than, material possessions.
So true. So true. Okay, so that brings us to our final virtue: master emotions, sustain grace.
Okay, we've talked about emotional intelligence, but how do we actually put that into practice?
Especially when we're faced with challenging situations.
It's so easy to get swept away by emotions,
It is.
especially in the heat of the moment.
The article suggests practicing mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay.
So taking a pause when you feel overwhelmed,
Okay.
breathing deeply,
Yeah.
and observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So it's like creating that space
Yes.
between the stimulus and your reaction.
That space allows you to choose a more skillful response.
So true.
And the article also highlights journaling
Journaling.
as a really powerful tool for processing emotions. Writing down your thoughts and feelings can provide clarity.
Yeah.
It can help you understand what's driving those emotions.
It's like having a conversation with yourself on paper.
Exactly. And remember, mastering emotions isn't about suppressing them.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging them,
Okay.
understanding them,
Yeah.
and choosing how you want to express them.
So it's about taking ownership of your emotions
Exactly.
and using them as a source of strength.
rather than letting them control you.
Right. I love that. Welcome back to our deep dive into these 6 timeless virtues.
It's been quite a journey.
I know, I'm feeling really inspired by these.
Yeah, me too.
And I was thinking about how we could take these virtues beyond just ourselves.
Oh, like on a larger scale?
Yeah. Like what would happen if these virtues were kind of like woven into the fabric of society?
Ooh, that's an interesting thought.
What if we started with that first one? Cease complaining, embrace the good. Like what would happen if we all kind of shifted our energy from focusing on what's wrong to like looking for solutions and expressing gratitude more?
Well, I think it would definitely create a more positive and constructive environment.
Right. Like imagine a society where people are just more appreciative.
And looking for the good in others.
Yeah. And in situations.
And looking for solutions instead of just dwelling on problems.
Yeah, exactly.
And then think about what would happen if we applied that second virtue, transform laziness, into motivation, like on a societal level.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
What if everyone harnessed their strengths and worked towards shared goals?
Like we could really unlock some amazing potential.
Oh, yeah.
Like, can you imagine the advancements we could make in every field?
Oh, absolutely. It would be incredible.
It'd be incredible. And what about from envy to serenity? Like, what if instead of feeling threatened by other people's success, we celebrated them and drew inspiration from them?
I think it would create this amazing culture of support and encouragement where people felt empowered to pursue their dreams without the weight of comparison.
I love that. Yeah, and then preserve family, nurture happiness.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, what would that look like on a societal level?
I think we'd see stronger communities, stronger families.
Right, where children felt truly loved and valued.
And those strong bonds would then ripple outwards.
Right, creating more empathy and understanding.
In other areas of life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what about guard wealth? Avoid ostentation.
Okay, so what if wealth was seen as a tool for positive change?
Yeah, like creating a more just and sustainable world.
Instead of just focusing on material accumulation.
Right, like shifting our values towards meaning and contribution.
People would be using their resources to uplift others.
Right, to address important issues.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that true wealth isn't just about what you have, but how you use it to make a difference.
And finally, master emotions, sustain grace. What if we applied that on a global level?
Oh, wow.
What do you think would happen?
I think we'd see a world where empathy and understanding replaced judgment and reactivity,
Yeah, like people would respond to challenges with more composure and resilience.
leading to more peaceful resolutions.
A beautiful vision.
It is. And the best part is we don't have to wait for some massive societal shift to happen.
Right.
It starts with each of us.
Yeah, we can embody these virtues in our own lives.
And inspire others to do the same.
It's like planting seeds of positive change
That ripple outwards.
and create a better world for everyone.
Absolutely well said.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, it really does. I'm feeling so inspired.
Yeah, me too. It's been a real eye-opener for me.
I think for both of us.
Yeah, exploring these virtues and seeing how they can impact not just our individual lives,
Right.
but the world around us.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you've enjoyed it.
We hope you learned something.
And that you're feeling inspired.
To embrace these virtues.
In your own life.
Yeah, and remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Keep practicing.
Keep growing.
And keep making a positive impact on the world.
Until next time, keep diving deep.